I see myself now as an ambassador, right, of this beautiful nation and having the opportunity to really see it in a way that I never thought I would. That this is a nation based on morals and principles and has a foundation that is strong and one that puts life first. I don't know if you've seen the news, but Israeli President Isaac Herzog is going to be visiting the United States to address a joint session of Congress next week. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, and her gang of, minions, including Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, and others, I'm sure, said that they're not going to attend this. They will not attend this joint session. Well, I think it's pretty evident of who they are and what they are. You know, they try to accuse Israel all the time. Israel is a nation. It is a nation that has the right to exist. It has been attacked numerous times. It is in an area of the world that is constantly under fire. And the Israeli people have survived through all of this. We have people in our country, there are people all over the world that are not only racist and anti-Semitic, they want to transform our nation. And they do it by embedding themselves into our civilizations, into our Western society, into our Judeo-Christian culture. And they want to shift it and change it in ways that are so dramatic that it turns our foundation on its head. So basically, groups like BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions, and others that are out there, these anti-Semitic groups, Hamas, Hezbollah, people who support these radical extremist Islamist groups, and others, even within our own government, people that have been in the Democratic Party, and I'm sure there's been GOP members as well in the past. But there are people within our nations that are making this possible. They are attempting to shift the foundation of our country and turn us into something that we are not. We have seen Representative Congresswoman Jayapal, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name wrong, because I probably am, because I don't like her. And I think she's a racist. That is why I wanted Liora Rez on the show. She's the executive director of Stop Anti-Semitism. And I want to ask you this question. Do you see Israel as a racist state? Take a look at the history. Take a look at what is happening to Israel now. I spent 2 weeks in Israel. I'm going to be with Liora in a minute. And I loved it so much. And I loved every aspect of being in Israel, even the difficult challenges that Israel faces. And I want to be an ambassador for the United States, right? For Israel and for the United States. I want us to have a better relationship because I am terrified that people in our government, like the Squad and Jayapal, are working to sever our relationship with our greatest ally. And that, my friends, should never happen. I'm going to be in Israel next year. I'm going to do a whole podcast on it. I want you guys to go to SaraCarterIsrael.com, SaraCarterIsrael.com if you want to join me. We have to fight this scourge. And like I said, today I'm joined by Liora Rez. She is coming up. But first, gold and silver. Gold and silver allow you to diversify. It allows you to protect what you have worked so hard for. Your IRA, your 401k, back it up with gold and silver. You can do that. You can do that with Allegiance Gold. I love Allegiance Gold. Thank you for being a sponsor of the Sara Carter Show. And right now you'll get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. Get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. So don't wait. Call or click today, 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, S-A-R-A, or go to protectwithsara, noh.com. We can't control the Biden administration, folks, but we can prepare. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, noh, or protectwithsara.com. I'm so happy to have Liora Rez here. Obviously, I just love her personally, and she's a friend. And we were just saying, Liora, how we could talk forever. You're the executive director of Stop Anti-Semitism. What a great organization. And by the way, I want all of you, as we're listening to this, I'm going to put up on my website, saracarter.com, I'm going to put up a link to stopantisemitism.org. That is stopantisemitism.org. You don't have to be Jewish to go there. You don't have to be Jewish to want to stop anti-Semitism worldwide. And Liora educates people every single day on her Twitter handle, on Instagram, on just about every social media platform, what this is and what we need to do to stop it. And it's just gotten so far worse, right, Liora?
Sara Carter, I'm so happy to be back with you. Like you had just said, I feel like I can talk to you for hours.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's us. I mean, I want to start with something really good right now. Israel's President Herzog will address a joint session of Congress tomorrow morning. I mean, I'm so excited about this. How important is this event?
I'm thrilled. I'm so thrilled that the president of Israel is here speaking with President Biden and addressing Congress tomorrow. It's crucial for him to update the public and our congressional members and Jewish advocacy groups in regards to the U.S.-American allyship and how we can grow it even stronger than it currently is.
You know, I was recently in Israel. I did a bunch of podcasts with regard to that. That was my very first trip. I know a lot of people find that hard to believe. I've traveled so much to the Middle East my whole life, and it was the only place I ever really wanted to go in the Middle East. And I finally did it. I'm heading back again next year, but I had this marvelous opportunity, Liora, to speak with IDF, Israeli Defense Forces colonels, and talk about border security, talk about what security means to Israel, speak to the people that are doing everything, putting their lives on the line every single day in defense of this beautiful, blessed nation. And I just saw that Prime Minister Netanyahu had a little hospitalization. Thank God he's okay. But I think it's very important that we build relations and strong relations with Israel. I'm going to give you an opportunity to address that right now. And then I'm going to come back to Congresswoman Jayapal's comments. But I want to give you a moment to address how important the relationship between the U.S. and Israel is and why we need to build fundamentally on that foundation and even build stronger relations as in the future.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to chat about that. No matter who the Prime Minister of Israel is, just like no matter who sits in our White House and is President of the United States, the bond between Israel and the United States will never be broken. It's crucial that our allyship continue to be strong as Israel remains a strong democratic nation, a secure democratic nation. It's equally beneficial for America as equal cooperation between our economies, our defense, our security. When one is stronger, the other is stronger. So again, no matter who sits in the White House as president of the United States, no matter who's Prime Minister of Israel, those two relationships will never be broken.
And that's the hard part, isn't it, Liora? Because we watch, right now, especially with the Biden administration and the push towards, I would call it the olive branch to Iran, the consistent olive branch to Iran by the Democrats, which is to me just baffling in and of itself. And I think that they just believe that Israel will be plan A if Iran gets close to developing actual nuclear warheads, that they're counting on Israel to take Iran out, because I just can't fathom this foreign policy that's in place with the Biden administration. But I was stunned. I mean, and I'm sure you were, to a certain extent. I mean, we know there's anti-Semitism in our own Congress, but for it to be so blatant when Congresswoman Jayapal made these comments, let's play this clip so you can hear it and then explain. I just want to get your response to it. Just listen to this.
I'll just leave. Maybe I should just walk off.
Guys, can I say something? Can I say something as somebody that's been in the streets and has participated in a lot of demonstrations? I want you to know that we have been fighting to make it clear that Israel is a racist state, that the Palestinian people deserve self-determination and autonomy, that the dream of a two-state solution is slipping away from us, that it does not even feel possible. It does not even feel possible. And I want you to know that while you may have arguments with whether or not some of us on stage are fighting hard enough, I do want you to know that there is an organized opposition on the other side, and it isn't the people that are on this stage.
This is just astonishing to me. I mean, just to hear, she said exactly what they say behind closed doors in public. And just for those of you who don't know what district or where she's from, Congresswoman Jayapal is from the 7th District of Washington State. How do you respond to that?
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised. This particular congresswoman belongs to a fringe sect of the Democratic Party known as the Justice Democrats. Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Jamal Bowman, AOC, Cori Bush. These are other members of Justice Democrats. Their goal is to destabilize American society, infect it with anti-Semitism, and essentially cause chaos wherever they can. And slowly, with messengers such as Congresswoman Jayapal, they are very, very successful in various goals, albeit this one failed miserably. And we have to thank the Democratic Party for immediately intervening and calling out her rabid anti-Semitism. Although I want to note they did not name her specifically by name, everybody knows what they were talking about. If I can just read a Joint House Democratic Leadership Statement, where it says, Israel is not a racist state. It's a Jewish and democratic nation refounded 75 years ago on the principle of complete equality of social and political rights for all of its citizens, regardless of religion, race, or sex, is codified in its Declaration of Independence. 22% of Israeli citizens are non-Jews. The majority of Jewish citizens in Israel are Mizrahi and Sephardic Jews, which means they are black and brown. So the majority of Jews in Israel are not Ashkenazi or white passing or European Jews, but they were black and brown Jews.
Absolutely. And again, everywhere I was in Israel, it was such a diverse, beautiful nation, right? And it's just an absolutely incredible nation, very culturally, I would say, what we're accepting. I got there. Yes, I got there 100%. Actually. Yeah, I actually got there during Gay Pride weekend, you know, and it was just like,
oh, wow, you hit the party weekend over there.
I did. I was like in Tel Aviv. I landed in Tel Aviv right on the weekend. Wow. Everybody's like, well, you came to the party, you know, but the interesting thing was for me, especially being in Israel, it's like building up that ambassadorship, right? As an individual, like everybody who travels, we learn more about the place. We're not just listening to Ilhan Omar or their anti-Semitic behavior or Jayapal's, you know, anti-Semitic rhetoric. You're there and you see it for yourself and you understand. And then I bring that home. I think that's important. But you know,
100%. Yep.
Do you think that maybe the Democrats have learned a little bit since, remember that whole incident with Ilhan Omar and Nancy Pelosi? They there were so many people that were upset with the fact that they didn't rebuke her comments regarding Israel. And that was going way back. I just actually pulled up the story here. Well, in 2021. Do you remember that?
Oh, absolutely. And I have to tell you, not only were Jewish advocacy groups like Stop Anti-Semitism ridiculously were outraged by her by Nancy Pelosi's ridiculous refusal to rebuke her, but also with her endorsement of Ilhan Omar's next congressional run. Right. If anything, Nancy Pelosi should have been doing everything in her power to support another viable Democratic candidate for her seat. It was a man. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but it was a great opportunity to remove her from her seat. And unfortunately, Nancy Pelosi did the wrong thing and endorsed an anti-Semite. Right. So maybe they learned their lesson, but again, very happy the Democratic Party immediately rebuked her. And I'm not sure if you and your listeners are aware, but today, Congresswoman Jayapal is stating this criticism of her anti-Semitic comment is due to racism. And I have one simple comment to that, is that your race, ethnicity, and gender are never a green light to spew bigotry against anybody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is, but that is what the squad does. You know, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, all of the same players, right, that have been very vocal. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. Remember that? Racist comment made. Yeah. I mean, this is what they believe. And they act like because they have brown skin or because they're Muslim or because whatever reason that they have carte blanche, like they can't be racist, that anybody who says anything to them is therefore the racist. And that's
ludicrous.
Flat out.
Absolutely ludicrous.
Ludicrous lie. They are anti-Semitic. They utilize Israel as a way of, I think, fomenting that anti-Semitism, right? Well, if I say it about Israel and I'm not really directly saying it about the Jews, then nobody can come after me, right? Correct. I'm going to go after Israel. And I think that now we're starting to see that they can't hide behind that anymore.
Correct. And I have to tell you, with you being in Israel alone, you probably saw what a thriving Christian community the country has. And Absolutely. When we look at demographics of the Christian community in the Middle East and its dwindling numbers, Israel is the sole place where Christian communities actually are thriving and growing in numbers.
And can be safe.
Not only that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, and can be safe. I'd add that. And have
be safe.
Safety.
Yes, absolutely. Safety and thriving lives and autonomy to practice religion as you wish. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. Secondly, Jayapal and Omar's and Tlaib's rhetoric is so ludicrous that even Israeli Arabs on social media are coming out, pointing out how wrong they are, saying, look, I'm an Israeli Arab. I served in the IDF. My family is living in a democratic nation. What in the world are you talking about? These are total lies. So finally, they're seeing the rebuttals that are needed in regards to their complete lies.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point. And let's reiterate that again, because that is something that I found really fascinating and kind of remarkable. I was talking to different, IDF commanders and meeting with former IDF as well as intelligence officials in Israel. And there are Muslim and Arab, people that they live in Israel. Israel is their country. Yep. It is Israel first. They're not, and they came right out and they were talking about, the various, I would say the various networks or the various groups, even within the Israeli military, that work towards peace and work against groups, the expansion of groups like Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the terrorist nations, because it's a constant struggle for Israel to protect itself. And it's not just about the Jewish people, although that is the promised land, in my opinion. But it is about a nation that is trying to live in an area that it is surrounded by enemies. I mean, just...
It's a hostile nation, right? It's a hostile nation. It's a nation that is thriving. It has one of the highest GDPs in the region without oil. And when we look again at the population, we're not talking just about Jews. We're talking a quarter of the country being Christian and Muslim. And I'm not sure if you've heard, but in Europe, they just had their track and field championships. And a sprinter for the 200 meters, an Israeli man was. And he wasn't Jewish. His name is Akwasi Asifa. His father's from Ghana. His parents are Christians. He grew up in Israel. He stayed in Israel. He's an Israeli citizen now. And he raced for Israel and proudly held the Israeli flag. This is an African Christian representing the state of Israel. What in the world kind of racism is that? I ask you.
Oh, it's not. And I'm gonna say a story right now because I was so moved by this story. We were on, taking a tour, and we went to the Holocaust museum, and it was just a very emotional part of the whole, I guess, 2 weeks that I was there. This was a highlight for me. And they had one part of the Holocaust Museum was in memory of the children that died in the Holocaust. And it was just, it was just really incredibly, yeah. Yep. It was just so emotional. There are no words, right? You just don't even talk when you walk in there. You're just listening to the names, right, as they're being read out loud, and you're thinking of the over a million children that lost their lives, right?
Yes.
And
yes. And then when you're a mother, it just hits different, you
Oh,
know.
it is, because I can't. I'm getting the goosebumps now because I can't. Yeah. And there's a reason for me going in this direction. It's very important. It has to do with, you talk about Ghana. You're talking about, how there's Christians and Muslims in Israel, and this is the reason why I want people to hear this, because the story that I don't think very few people have ever heard. I think it should be made into a movie. So Shimon was my guide, and he was with us, and I was with Tom Homan, former, immigration and customs enforcement officer. And we were there to learn from our Israeli allies about border security. And while we were there, we got to take these amazing tours. That's it in a nutshell. But while we were there are these trees, and I don't know, I'm sure you've been there, Leora, but they plant them for the families that basically, like Schindler, right? For families that had rescued Jewish children or Jewish families and hid them from the Nazis. And Shimon told us this story about a family that was Muslim that actually hid a Jewish family. And they had met, it was very long ago. One of the survivors had told the Israeli government, and he was part of a team that was advised on this, that they said, well, how did you get here? And they explained, and they said, well, it was this family. I wish I had my notes in front of me. I could tell you the family's name, but and there was this family, and they were Muslim, and they hid us. And it was in Bosnia, Herzegovina, that area. And
of course.
Yeah, and it was at the time that this person gave their testimony, there was a war, an ongoing war. So the Israeli government basically got a team together. Shimon's team was a part of he was a part of this team. And they said, we are going to go in, we are going to find this family, and we are going to offer them, it makes me want to cry, sanctuary. This family had no idea. Right? They kept trying to reach them. They couldn't find them.
Yep. This probably happened during the late 1990s during the Balkan War.
Yes, exactly. It was during the late 1990s. And so the Israeli government sends in a special team, right, to locate this family. And they offer this family 3 different options. I hope I can remember them all. The first option was, once they found them, and they couldn't believe it. This family just could not believe it, that in the middle of a war, in the middle of the night, all of these soldiers, these Israeli soldiers, come in secretly and are like, hey, we're coming here to give you an option. 1, we can give you money and you can stay here, and be able to take care of your family. 2, we can move you to another nation. Or 3, you can come to Israel and live with us. And we will take care of you and your family for the rest of your life for what you did for this family. And the family chose option 3. We want to go to Israel. And then they packed up whatever they could. Yep. They got on a plane, and the family is still there today, living in the area of Tel Aviv. Isn't that amazing?
Amazing. Wow, goosebumps.
I know. And I just want people to hear that story, as I see myself now as an ambassador, right, of this beautiful nation, and having the opportunity to really see it in a way that I never thought I would. That this is a nation based on morals and principles, and has a foundation that is strong, and one that puts life first, regardless, right, of whatever religion or wherever you come from. And I think that is why Israel is so successful. I mean, sure, it's under constant threat, but I believe, we've seen that Israel's been able to protect herself against a really wide array of enemies. And some of those enemies are here in the United States. And that's where I want to go with you right now. The Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement, although it's an international campaign, ADL says, the Anti-Defamation League says, an international campaign aimed at delegitimizing and pressuring Israel through diplomatic, financial, professional, academic, and cultural isolation of Israel, Israeli individuals, Israeli institutions, and increasingly Jews who support Israel's right to exist, or anyone else. And this is BDS. This is what we call the BDS movement. The background on this, it has roots in anti-Israel calls to action with the Second Palestinian Intifada. That's when it rose up in 2000. And in 2001 at the United Nations Durban Conference against racism. Although BDS, though its campaigns are completely focused on, I believe, an anti-Semitic and targeting the Jewish people and the Israeli people. And right now we saw a big move by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, right? He is putting his money where his mouth is. And this is Law Morningstar may have broken some rules with regard to BDS. That went into effect in May in the state of Florida. It forbids companies from doing business with the state of Florida or from taking adverse action, including changes to published commercial financial ratings, risk ratings, and controversy ratings based on non-pecuniary, I always say peculiary, but it's pecuniary factors to inflict economic harm on Israel or persons or entities doing business in Israel or in Israeli-controlled territories. And now Morningstar is being suspected of being in violation of that law because of it has been accused of using investment ratings that discriminate against Israel. What do you say to that news and to what Governor Ron DeSantis is doing?
So let's take a look at who the founder of the BDS movement is. He's a Qatari-born man named Omar Barghouti, who lives and studies, guess where? In Israel. So while he enjoys the democratic nation of Israel, he calls for others globally to boycott the Jewish nation, right? And he was actually caught on video calling for the elimination of the Jewish state and to replace it with a Palestinian-only Arab state. So despite what BDS claims in their politically correct and sanitized press notices and their social media posts, they're not just boycotting this or that. The BDS movement wants the elimination of the Jewish state. So I wanted to make that first and foremost clear for your listeners, is that BDS is not a social campaign looking for economic sanctions here and there. Their goal is to eliminate the Jewish state and its 7 million Jews inhabiting that land. Secondly, when we look at who supports the BDS movement in Congress, lo and behold, the Justice Democrats pop up. And who founded the Justice Democrats? It's two former Bernie Sanders presidential campaigners from 2016, and 2 other commentators from the Young Turks, a now defunct sort of online press junket that ridiculously radical, has ties, various alleged ties to terrorists. But these are the founders of the Justice Democrats. And again, who do the Justice Democrats run and place into office? Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, Jayapal, as we were just talking about, Ayanna Pressley in Massachusetts, Rashida Tlaib in Michigan, Ilhan Omar in Minnesota, AOC in New York. So this particular group elects fringe Democrats to power to push these types of hate movements, one of them being the BDS movement. Now, kudos to the state of Florida for recognizing that Morningstar has a clear bias in their ratings at the direction of the BDS movement. Also, kudos to Florida for recently passing HB 269, one of the strongest hate bills in America, in a bipartisan fashion that moved from A to Z in the speed of lightning. If only all legislation in America would move as fast. But we couldn't be more thrilled.
I tell you, that is just Governor DeSantis. What an awesome job. He's just such a great guy. I know him too. And personally, I've worked with him on, when I was covering stories on Capitol Hill when he was in Congress. And then he went on to do and is still doing a phenomenal job as governor, and now is, in the running for the presidency. I mean, this is a very important message, though, that the state of Florida is sending across the board. Okay, I talk about MyPillow. I talk about MyPillow all the time. Why? Because I love Mike Lindell. I love his products. I love the fact that he has American products and he cares about the American people. America first, right, Mike Lindell? So right now, I want you to have all the great products that I have in my family. In fact, I've got my dog, Pika Lola, laying on the doggy bed below me. We've got 2 more doggy beds inside the house. We've got all of the MyPillow sheets, the Giza Dream sheets, the towels, everything. The mattress toppers, the MyPillow 2.0. I can go on and on and on. And right now, queen size MyPillows, which were regularly priced at $69.98, are now only $19.98. Go figure. Only $19.98. I don't know how you do it, Mike. Just $10 more for a king size. So go to mypillow.com/Carter and use promo code Carter to get the queen size MyPillow for only $19.98 during Mike's MyPillow 20th anniversary sale, or call 1-800-685-7221. There you'll find not only this amazing offer, but also deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the MyPillow slippers, pet beds, blankets, and so much more. Get the best night's sleep, mypillow.com/Carter, and use promo code Carter, or call 1-800-685-7221, mypillow.com/Carter, promo code Carter. Hey guys, if you love the Sara Carter Show, make sure you subscribe here on Rumble and on your favorite podcast app. I don't care if it's Apple, Spotify, whatever you want. Thank you. It really does make a difference. Leora, thank you for letting me take up so much of your time. I truly appreciate the fact that you're able to educate, me, everyone who's listening, in, layman's terms on how to fight anti-Semitism. Where can our listeners go to get the latest and the greatest from you and educate themselves on what needs to be done to continue this battle against one of the worst hate crimes right now that I can imagine in our government and as well as in our country? What can we do to fight back?
So your listeners can view us at stopantisemitism.org. We have a heat map that lists daily anti-Semitic incidents throughout the United States. They can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and now Meta's new project, Threads, at Stop Anti-Semitism. And I just want to thank you again always for being such a strong ally to the Jewish people, to the Jewish nation. And like you had just said at the start of our conversation, you do not have to be Jewish to support the Jewish people. As I always say this, and I will always say it, we have to stand together, because as history has shown us, what starts with the Jewish people never ends with the Jewish people. It engulfs modern day society.
Absolutely. It never ends with just the Jewish people. And it's about all of us as human beings standing up for one another and fighting for human rights and not allowing this kind of racism to permeate our culture or our society and to put a stop to it. And that's okay. We can fight for human rights.
Absolutely.
We don't need to acquiesce.
Absolutely.
We don't need to acquiesce to other people's anger and rage and racism. We could say that's just not acceptable. That is
Correct.
not acceptable, regardless of where you are from or who you are. Thank you, Leora, for being a part of the show.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Hey, everybody. Like I said, I've been to Israel. I've traveled and spent most of my life in the Middle East. I have studied Middle Eastern foreign policy and terrorism. I've been on the front lines of the battlefields in Afghanistan and Iraq. I understand this region. I understand what is happening. That is why I'm going back to Israel next year. And I want you to be a part of this trip. It's called Defend the Border and Save Lives. I'll be back with Tom Homan. It is going to be an amazing trip. I do not want you to miss out on this great opportunity. The tickets are going fast and the spots are going fast. We can only take so many people, but this will allow you to get to Israel, to meet with Israeli officials, people with Israeli Defense Forces, be a part of this group with me. And believe me, we built lifelong relationships. It's fascinating. Not just will we be talking about the border, but we're going to visit holy sites. We go to many of the Judeo-Christian biblical sites in Jerusalem, in Galilee, the Jordan River, Masada, the Dead Sea, and so much more. Guys, join me. I hope you do. I'm going to go into more details about this later, but you're part of my family now. We're together every single day on this podcast, and I appreciate all of your comments. I appreciate all of your support. I could not do this without you. If you love today's show and you want even more of the Sarah Carter Show, make sure you rate this podcast 5 stars and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Follow me on Truth at Sarah Carter Official, on Twitter at Sarah Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless the state of Israel. God bless our beautiful nation. And God bless the great state of Texas.